Buenas tardes a todos. Quiero darles la bienvenida y agradecerles por acompañarnos en este evento. Mi nombre es Alejandra Zapata y hago parte del equipo de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales de Colfuturo. Hoy nos acompaña Alex, quien es representante de Victoria University of Wellington, y Sandra, quien es representante de Massey University. Nos estarán brindando a ambos información acerca de la oferta académica que tienen disponible, cómo pueden iniciar ustedes su postulación y qué opciones de financiación tienen. También nos estarán hablando un poco del convenio que tienen con Colfuturo, el cual actualmente la Universidad de Victoria ofrece un descuento del 20% en el valor de la matrícula para programas de maestría. Adicionalmente, a los estudiantes de doctorado les dan la opción de pagar el valor de la matrícula de estudiante local durante el tiempo de residencia en Nueva Zelanda. En Massey otorga una beca del 100% en el valor de la matrícula para realizar un curso de inglés por 16 semanas. Al final vamos a tener un espacio de preguntas y respuestas, entonces si en algún momento de la presentación tienen alguna duda o pregunta, la pueden ir escribiendo en el chat, que al final las vamos a leer para darles respuesta. Quiero recordarles que esta sesión hace parte de una serie de eventos que vamos a tener esta semana, ayer y mañana con Nueva Zelanda. Entonces se pueden agendar en nuestra página web colfuturo.org, ver todo el cronograma, también en nuestras redes sociales, Instagram, Facebook y Twitter pueden ver toda esta programación y registrarse para asistir a todas estas charlas. Alex and Sandra, thank you so much for joining us, for your time, and for your interest to present the institution. So, Alex, you can start.
Okay, thank you. Hola, kia ora, and hello from Wellington, New Zealand. I know un poco de español, but not enough to do a proper presentation in Spanish, so I will have to do this in English, unfortunately. But if I speak too fast or if there's something you would like me to go over again, someone just let me know. So I am calling you from Wellington, New Zealand at the moment. Wellington is the capital city of New Zealand, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Victoria University of Wellington, the city of Wellington, and a little bit about our relationship with Colfuturo. So where is New Zealand in the world? As you can see, we're not really close to anything. We're a bit in the middle of nowhere. Some of us like it that way. Some of us, it's tough. Obviously, in these times when we can't connect with our friends internationally in person, it's tough to be isolated like this. But we're hoping at some point we can welcome you all to New Zealand in the near future. The closest major country to us is Australia, which is probably about a 3 to 4 hour flight if you're trying to go to Sydney or Melbourne, and then longer if you're going elsewhere. The closest South American destination in terms of flight paths would probably be Auckland to Santiago, which I believe is about 11 hours. So that's Santiago, Chile. Not a short flight at all, but they give you lots of movies and stuff, so it's not so bad when you're flying. New Zealand only has 5 million people in a country that's about the same size as Japan or the UK. So that means that New Zealand is actually quite a sparsely populated country. Most of the people live in the cities, so Auckland, Hamilton, Palmerston North, Wellington, Christchurch. And in between those cities, there's really not that many people. So if you're exploring New Zealand, you'll find that it's quite sparsely populated. New Zealand's been ranked the second most peaceful country in the world by the World Peace Index in 2021. It is the least corrupted country in the world, according to the Corruption Index of 2020. It's number 1 in a Human Freedom Index and number 1 in terms of English-speaking countries for educating students for the future. So it's a good destination in terms of just a place to visit and tour around, but also an excellent destination for education. As I mentioned, Victoria University of Wellington is located in Wellington, of course, which is at the bottom of New Zealand's North Island. It is the capital, and because it's the capital, that gives our programs quite a few advantages in that we can interface with the New Zealand government very easily. We get 2,000 hours of sunshine per year here in Wellington. There's over 50,000 hectares of parks, and I don't know exactly what a hectare is, but I can tell you from living here that there's a lot of parks, a lot of places to hike and explore. And these parks are very close to the city center, so it's a very nice place to explore when you have some time. It's the cafe capital of New Zealand. We actually have more cafes per capita than New York City, so that's pretty cool. And it's the highest median income of all cities in New Zealand, likely because of the presence of the government. The city is safe and friendly. It's diverse. I believe 1 in every 3 people in Wellington were born outside of New Zealand, including myself. I originate from the United States. It's considered a creative capital of New Zealand. Peter Jackson's Weta Workshop is based here, and during the height of COVID, a lot of films were actually produced here because we had a relatively safe COVID situation with limited community transmission. It's a high-tech city. The presence of lots of students gives us the ability to have a lot of startups and innovation. It's clean and green. As I mentioned, there's tons of parks. You can even see some of them in the image in the corner here. And it's easy to get around. It's a compact city. Public transport is good, and it's easy to walk or take a bus from one place to another. We have about 22,000 students, and about set across 3 different central city campuses. We have 140 plus clubs and societies you can get involved in, 4 libraries. We're partnered with almost 200 universities in 30 countries, including a few in Colombia. We have 43 research institutes, students who are from over 100 countries in the world, and we have 8 different faculties for teaching. Additionally, we have a goal of becoming a zero carbon institution by 2030. So it's an ambitious goal that we're making progress on. Victoria University of Wellington is considered the #1 university in New Zealand for research intensity. And that's based off of a New Zealand government analysis. Now, what that means is that we produce the highest volume of high quality research in New Zealand. We're top 1% in the world in 20 different subject areas, according to QS rankings, top 111 subjects. Our business school is it's Triple Crown accredited, meaning 3 different international accrediting bodies have basically signed off on the quality of education at our business school. And our city was ranked the 4th most livable in 2021. These are the major subjects that you can study at Victoria University of Wellington. We have a robust architecture and building science program at all levels. Business and government, of course, given our capital location. Design, film, and media is quite popular. As I mentioned, it's a very artistic city. We offer education and teaching, engineering and digital technologies. We do offer health, although I need to say that this is not necessarily health practice. You wouldn't come to New Zealand to become a doctor or a dentist, but we do have courses in things like public health and health promotion and health policy. We have the full suite of humanities and social sciences that you would expect at a liberal arts university. We offer law. We have a very good law program here. We have music and theater in terms of the performing arts. And of course, we have all of the hard sciences. So, biology, chemistry, marine biology, environmental science, and things of that nature. As I mentioned, we have 3 different campuses, and I'm going to go through each one of them, give you an idea of what they look like. Our Pipatiya campus is located in the center of the city, literally across the street from the New Zealand Parliament building. And this is where you study business and law. And again, being so close to Parliament allows us to really work with the government on our educational offerings. Our Kelburn campus is the main campus, and that's where I am right now. It overlooks the city center, and so there's beautiful views from all over the place up here. And this is where you will be if you are studying education, engineering, health, humanities, and social sciences, music, or science. It's also where most of the university's support services are based. Finally, we have our Te Aro campus, which is also in the center of the city, sort of in the arts district, which is good because this is where our architecture and design students study. So, it's all these campuses are about a 15-minute walk from one another, and you can take a bus too if you'd like. So they're quite easy to get to if you have classes on either campus. So tertiary study in New Zealand, this is just a basic diagram which explains what university study looks like here. So we offer 3-year bachelor's degrees, and then for master's degrees, they're usually 1 to 2 years. The master's degree can either be a research-based degree where you do a thesis, it can be a coursework-based degree where you just take a lot of courses, or a mix of the two. PhDs in New Zealand are 3 years long and are just research. I'll do a bit more talking about that in a bit. So our relationship with Col Futuro, we've been partners since 2017. You would get accepted here at Victoria University of Wellington first, and then apply for a Col Futuro scholarship. Students who are accepted into one of our degrees and then get the Col Futuro scholarship get a 20% discount on their fees. And then of course, PhD students in New Zealand, and this goes for any institution, you pay the same amount that a domestic student would pay, meaning a New Zealand student. And that's quite a bit less than the international fee. So what sort of requirements do you need to fulfill to get into one of our postgraduate degrees? Well, you need to have a bachelor's degree, of course, and we generally look for a B average. Some individual programs, the average might be a bit higher. Some it might be a bit lower. The bachelor's degree for most programs should be related to the program you're looking to study, but some degrees will accept students from all backgrounds provided they have a certain GPA. Our postgraduate admissions, we do not require any standardized academic tests, but we do require evidence of English proficiency. So that means we need an IELTS or a TOEFL or one of a few other testing types. Generally, applications take about 4 weeks to process once you submit them. If you submit electronic documents to us, you can apply either electronically or through post. I imagine most students want to do electronically these days because who wants to mail anything? You do need to have your documents certified, meaning that some authority in Colombia recognizes the document as a true copy of the original. And of course, we do accept e-transcripts and other electronic documents. For PhDs, these are usually completed, as I mentioned, within 3 to 4 years, and they're just research. You'll pick a topic, you'll develop a proposal for that topic, and then you will execute that topic by doing research and writing a massive report. There are 3 application rounds in order to become a PhD student here, meaning that you must apply either before March 1st, July 1st, or November 1st. And then about 6 weeks after that date, you'll hear back about your PhD status. PhD students in New Zealand at the moment do get full-time working rights. So that's pretty good. You can work full-time as a PhD student here on a student visa. Additionally, at the moment, if you come with your partner, they can come and get an open work visa so they can get a job while you're studying. And if you come with your children, they can enroll at New Zealand schools as domestic students, so you don't have to pay any additional rates. So the PhD in New Zealand is quite an attractive option if that's the level of study that you're looking at. New Zealand universities are put into 3 different trimesters. So our academic year is cut into 3 different bits. Trimester 1 goes from March until late June. This is considered usually the start of the academic year. So, for example, when Kiwi students finish high school, they will come to university mostly in trimester 1. So that's probably the busiest time of year. Our trimester 2 goes from July to November. And then the end of November for most programs is considered the end of the academic year, and most students will take the summer break. But you can study in the summer as well in trimester 3, which is November to February. So if your program was starting in trimester 1, your application deadline would be the 1st of December. For trimester 2, it's the 1st of May. In trimester 3, it's the 1st of September. However, I would absolutely recommend applying much earlier than this, just to make sure that all of your information is sorted out so that you can get to New Zealand on time and start your studies on time. In terms of where you'd live while you're here, we have 14 different halls of residence that students can live in. About half of these are catered, meaning that they'll serve you food, and then the other half are non-catered, so more independent. I know that students doing postgraduate study tend to prefer the non-catered options. International students are guaranteed accommodation provided they apply before the deadline, so that's good. All of our halls, even the more independent ones, do offer academic support, pastoral care, which basically just means that there'll be somebody there who can help you figure out any issues you might be having, help you work through any stresses or concerns you might be having. And of course, social support. Our halls of residence do focus on connecting students and making sure that everybody is meeting one another. Again, Wellington's a small, compact city, so your accommodation would be quite close to the campus. Everton Hall is an example of one of our self-catered independent accommodations. So in this setup, you will stay in a room by yourself, but you will share a lounge, a kitchen, and a bathroom with a few other students. So it's a good way of living where you get a bit of independence, but you also have other students that you'll be living with so that you can meet them and live with other students. Joan Stevens is an example of one of our catered halls, meaning that it's they'll serve you food there. And you'll stay in a room by yourself, but you'll live on a floor of other students, and there'll be organized floor activities that you can participate in. So student life at Victoria University of Wellington is quite busy. We have a very, very busy student body. Part of it, I think, is being in a capital, we tend to attract students who are active and involved. And the first start of that involvement is our orientation program. So it's called O Week. It's the first week of, the week before classes start. And there's just tons of activities you can get involved in, lots of people that you can meet, both social, academic, everything you could want that happens in O Week. We have an international buddy program where new international students will be matched up with current international students so that you have at least a friend who can help you kind of work through what it's like being an international student here in New Zealand. We have an International Students Association. So this is a group of international students who are kind of coming together to basically meet one another, to advocate on behalf of international students and host international themed events. On the same sort of vein, we have a postgraduate students association where students studying masters and PhDs come together and host research events and other things. And we have a host of extracurricular activities to keep you engaged outside the classroom. And then in these programs, you get to meet people like diplomats, government officials, and other people in Wellington where you can network, meet people, and just sort of expand your education outside the classroom. Student support, obviously, studying in another country is exciting. It should be. This should be something that you get excited about. But things will inevitably kind of go wrong, or you might just need help getting through a few things. You might have questions you need answered, and we do have student support teams to help you with any of those questions. In addition to the O Week I mentioned earlier, we offer a special international orientation, which is designed to help students kind of get used to New Zealand and make sure that you are aware of all the relevant supports. We have a visa officer who can help you manage anything immigration related, at least in terms of your student visa. I mentioned the buddy program already. We have a language learning center where you can either, you can practice English, practice any other language you want to learn, Japanese, Chinese, Italian, French, whatever it might be. And we have something cool called the Language Buddy Program, where, for example, let's say, you speak Spanish, but you want to learn Chinese. You'll be matched up with somebody who speaks Chinese but wants to learn Spanish. And so you two can teach each other the language. And also, you make a friend, you learn more about another culture and country. So that's a really cool program at the Language Learning Center. We offer learning support. So if you're struggling with your academics, you can get some help there. We have student insurance, which is really robust so that if you get sick and you need help, you have insurance to help pay for that. And then we have a host of other services, services for disabilities, rainbow students. We can help, we have a career service that can help you manage your sort of employability. And we have an on-campus health center in case you get sick. So at the moment, and I keep saying at the moment because these things have a tendency of changing, but at the moment, unless you're doing a PhD, most students in New Zealand can work 20 hours per week while studying. So that means you can have a part-time job and you can do a bit of work while you're studying. You can work full-time in between your trimesters, or in the summer if you're not studying at all, you can work full-time. Again, at the moment, upon finishing your degree, you'd be eligible for a 3-year open work visa, meaning you can work for any employer in any field up to 3 years after you complete your degree. If you decide to study with us online, of course, you wouldn't need a visa, so you don't even need to worry about that. It's sort of on that point. If you were in a session yesterday, you might have heard a bit about this. But the New Zealand border at the moment is closed to students. Obviously, everybody in here wants it to be open as soon as possible, as soon as it's safe to do so. And once it is, we look forward to welcoming Colombian students and students from all over the world back in New Zealand. We don't quite know when the border will open. The government is taking it kind of day by day as things develop and our vaccination rates go up. But as soon as we know, we'll make sure everybody knows about it, because we really want students to come back. We want to, we want that international atmosphere on our campuses. International students add so much value to what we do here in New Zealand, and we really want them back. We just got to wait a little bit until that happens. So my final slide is a Q&A slide, but I'm aware that there will be a Q&A at the absolute end of this whole presentation today. And so I think we will hold and go to the next speaker now. Thank you all for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Alex. See, at the final, we will have the Q&A session. Sandra, can you start?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'll share my screen, but meanwhile, I want to thank Alex, because the good thing of not being the first university presenting is that Alex has covered a lot of general information and a lot of information that applies to all New Zealand universities. Cambio a idioma español. Yo soy mexicana de origen, llevo viviendo 20 años aquí en Nueva Zelanda. Me encanta el país y me encanta también la idea de traer a más colombianos aquí a Nueva Zelanda, porque enriquecen la cultura de una manera muy notoria, y tanto profesores como gente normal que conozco, lo digo realmente por experiencia, se encantan con la cultura, con el carácter, con la forma de ser del colombiano, y realmente nos gustaría tener más colombianos aquí en Nueva Zelanda. Paso a lo que es la Universidad de Massey. Me regreso un poquito. Nueva Zelanda tiene 8 universidades en total, es todo lo que hay. Las 8 universidades son de gobierno, son subsidiadas por el gobierno, entonces siempre trabajamos muy a la par. Por eso también trabajamos muy de cerca con Education New Zealand, que tuvo su presentación ayer, y muchas de las actividades, perfiles, forma de trabajar son muy similares entre las 8 universidades. Por eso dije que Alex realmente cubrió muchísimas cosas que son muy similares en Massey, lo que es alojamiento, lo que son visas, lo que es estilo de trabajo, lo que son asociaciones estudiantiles. Hay muchas similitudes en eso. Si vienen a Nueva Zelanda, vienen a un país muy abierto, muy accesible y con mucho apoyo a los estudiantes internacionales. Pasando a la segunda parte, Nueva Zelanda es un país bicultural con la cultura maori y, digamos, todos los demás, ¿no? Todos nosotros. Por ello, todas las instituciones de gobierno tienen nombre inglés y maorí. La Universidad de Massey, el nombre maorí es Te Conéctate Pure Juroa. Ustedes como latinos tienen ventaja porque el maorí se lee igual que el español en general. Incluso van a tener menos problemas que otros para pronunciar las palabras maorís. El significado de Te Conéctate Pure Juroa es desde la creación al infinito. Entonces, básicamente viene Your Future Knows No Bounds. Es nuestro objetivo es llevarte a ti tan lejos como tú quieras llegar. Si lo que buscas es alcanzar las estrellas, nuestro perfil es apoyarte a que llegues a ello, pero tú decides a dónde quieres ir. Alex presentó un mapa mundi para demostrar que no estamos tan lejos como parece. Realmente, si ustedes ven la distancia de Nueva Zelanda a Colombia, es la misma distancia que Nueva Zelanda a China. Sin embargo, tenemos muchísima gente de China, contados colombianos. Entonces, es importante para nosotros tener un balance y tener más culturas diferentes que enriquezcan al país. Alex cubrió un poquito también lo que son los rankings de Nueva Zelanda como país. Entonces, paz global, segundo en el mundo, primer lugar es Islandia. Entonces, realmente es la percepción de cómo vive la gente, corrupción, facilidades de hacer negocios, todo este tipo de cosas son muy tradicionales, muy típicas de Nueva Zelanda. Me encantó que Alex marcó la calidad de vida, segundo en el mundo es Wellington, Auckland número 16. En variedad de población, también Alex mencionó, uno de cada 3 personas que viven en Wellington nacieron fuera de Nueva Zelanda. Auckland es más intenso todavía, es más del 40%. Uno de cada 2 personas que ven va a ser extranjero, igual que ustedes, por lo cual el racismo es difícil de manejarse aquí en Nueva Zelanda porque todo el mundo es extranjero. Todo el mundo es lo mismo que ustedes cuando vienen aquí en Nueva Zelanda. Un poquito de las estadísticas de la universidad, tenemos alrededor de 30,000 estudiantes, de los cuales 18,000 sería el equivalente de tiempo completo, o sea, si muchos de estos 30,000 estudian tiempo parcial. Massey es reconocida por su educación a distancia, por ofrecer estudios a la gente que no puede estar tiempo completo en campus, que están viviendo en una ciudad pequeña, y eso es desde 1970. Entonces, ahora que vino el coronavirus, cambiar a educación a distancia para Massey fue muy fácil porque ya lo estaban haciendo. Actualmente, como pueden ver en la estadística, más del 60% de los estudiantes hacen por lo menos parte de los estudios a distancia por lo práctico que es y por lo personalizado que es. A pesar de ser a distancia, realmente uno como estudiante a distancia siente como si estuviera en campus. Yo estoy haciendo una maestría en sociología, estoy terminando mi primera materia y realmente a mis maestros los conozco en persona, a mis compañeros sé exactamente cuál es el tipo de investigación que están haciendo, podemos platicar, comentar, se siente uno como si estuviera realmente en vivo aquí. Lo menciono también porque ahorita con el coronavirus y todo eso, Massey está ofreciendo a cualquier estudiante que quiera venir aquí a estudiar y las fronteras todavía están cerradas, pueden empezar a distancia y en el momento en que migración diga, listo, ya pueden venir, se vienen para acá sin tener que esperar a que termine el semestre y nada. Si empezaron en febrero y en abril se abren las fronteras, vienen y siguen como si nada hubiera pasado. Massey también es la única universidad que tiene 3 campus. Las demás universidades están enfocadas en una sola ciudad. Massey educa, digamos, lo que es la generalidad del país y se enfoca a lo que necesita Nueva Zelanda como país, no solo qué es lo que necesita Auckland, qué es lo que necesita Wellington o qué es lo que necesita Palmerston North. Antes de entrar a lo que son las áreas de estudios que tiene la Universidad de Massey, nada más les quería hablar rápidamente de los 3 campus. La Universidad de Massey empezó en Palmerston North, que es una ciudad originalmente agrícola, se ha vuelto una ciudad estudiantil donde las actividades principales son educación, investigación y agricultura y ciencias naturales, pero también son muy fuertes en humanidades, por ejemplo. Es una ciudad de 90,000 habitantes, todo el mundo se conoce, todo el mundo se ayuda. Es una ciudad que yo consideraría muy auténticamente neozelandesa en el sentido de ser una ciudad pequeña. Massey abrió un campus en Auckland más adelante, ya tenemos alrededor de 25 años de haber abierto el campus en Auckland por demanda. Auckland es la ciudad más grande de Nueva Zelanda, cerca de 2 millones de habitantes, entonces realmente fue necesario abrir un campus aquí en Auckland. Es una ciudad muy industrial, una ciudad, digamos, lo que es una ciudad cosmopolita y una ciudad muy internacional donde tenemos estudiantes y gente de todo el mundo. Si ustedes van en una calle principal en Auckland, van a estar escuchando chino, japonés, alemán, francés, y cuando entras uno a la tienda, entonces cambia uno a inglés, bueno, porque es el lenguaje en el que todo el mundo se comunica, pero es súper interesante una ciudad en la que se escuchan todos los idiomas, se aceptan todas las culturas, el musulmán es totalmente normal, no es una cuestión extraña de ver a alguien diferente. Entonces, los aceptan como son, aceptan que hay diferentes religiones, que hay diferentes culturas, diferentes formas de pensar. Y finalmente tenemos Wellington, tenemos un campus en Wellington, que es nuestra escuela de artes. Así como dijo Alex, Wellington es conocido como la ciudad de las artes. Entonces, por ello tenemos todo tipo de diseños. Voy a meterme más a detalle más adelante, pero realmente es reconocida por eso y nuestra escuela de artes creativas es la escuela de artes creativas más antigua de Nueva Zelanda. Fue inaugurada incluso antes de que existiera la Universidad de Massey, pero conforme fue Massey creciendo, absorbió la Escuela de Artes Creativas. Entonces, aquí ven nuestras áreas de educación Igual que la Universidad de Victoria, tenemos un rango muy amplio de ofertas académicas. Entonces, realmente depende qué es lo que quieren ustedes estudiar, qué tipo de ambiente están buscando. Rankings, reconocimientos, al igual que Victoria, las universidades de Nueva Zelanda, todas son altamente reconocidas, todas tenemos motivos por los que llamamos la atención a nivel mundial. Cuando ustedes pongan su solicitud de admisión con Colfuturo, es súper importante que digan por qué escogieron Massey, por qué la educación específicamente en Nueva Zelanda, en Massey, les va a traer algo de los puntajes que maneja Colfuturo. Yo estuve en un panel de selección alguna vez de la Escuela de Negocios y específicamente lo que toman en cuenta es el perfil académico del estudiante y después Colfuturo les podrá hablar más detalle, pero también el por qué escogieron esa institución y cuáles son los highlights, los motivos por el que vale la pena que vengan a Nueva Zelanda. Entonces, por ejemplo, este tipo de cosas que les estoy poniendo en esta presentación de los rankings, las acreditaciones, los reconocimientos, para doctorados pueden ustedes presentar también, es que voy a trabajar con este profesor que es líder a nivel mundial en, por ejemplo, Massey, que es muy fuerte en sociología. Entonces, ese tipo de cosas es lo que deben de manejar ustedes. En nuestra página de internet, obviamente, pueden investigar un poco más específicamente del área que les interesa a ustedes. Voy a pasar nada más un poquito sobre la temática que tenemos en los diferentes colegios para que tengan una idea el rango de opciones que tienen. Negocios, muy grande escuela, fue una de las primeras escuelas de negocios de Nueva Zelanda, es una de las escuelas más grandes todavía hoy en día, y todas las áreas posibles. Por ejemplo, a mí me llama la atención Sport Management, cómo hacer negocios con los deportes, cómo organiza uno las olimpiadas, todo ese tipo de cosas relacionados con deportes, pero en el área de negocios. Entonces, nada más les da una idea de la variedad de opciones que tenemos y son las especializaciones que pueden ustedes buscar. Aviación, somos la única universidad que ofrece un Bachelor of Aviation, o sea, no solamente obtienen su licencia de piloto, sino también aprenden sobre la industria de la aviación. Y tenemos también Aviation Management, los negocios dentro de la industria de la aviación. ¿Quién es el coordinador? ¿Quién es el gerente en un aeropuerto o en una flotilla aérea? Todo ese tipo de cosas. Massey tiene especializaciones a nivel maestría y doctorado también. Ciencias, lo que son las ciencias puras y muy fuerte todo lo que tiene que ver con naturaleza, agricultura, salud animal. Estamos reconocidos en salud veterinaria a nivel mundial. Tenemos nosotros estudiantes americanos que vienen a estudiar veterinaria aquí en Nueva Zelanda porque el programa es más corto, más práctico y reconocido internacionalmente. Ellos se gradúan y regresan a Estados Unidos y son veterinarios. No tienen que acreditar nada más, no tienen que hacer exámenes adicionales. Tecnología de alimentos, reconocido también a nivel de integración del alimento, hasta que está la cajita en el supermercado listo para tomarse. Entonces, muy, muy fuerte si ustedes están interesados en cualquiera de estas áreas. Ingenierías, lo que son ingenierías de procesos, sobre todo, muy práctico para ingenieros industriales que estén buscando hacer maestrías, este tipo de cosas, abierto a diferentes áreas dentro de lo que es producción. Salud, un poco parecido que Victoria, todo lo que es mantener a la población saludable. Prevención de enfermedades, epidemiología, nutrición, más si estamos trabajando con producción de alimentos, está muy cercano a lo que es nutrición. Sí tenemos enfermería, pero ya lo que es medicina sería la Universidad de Auckland en la isla norte o la Universidad de Otago en la isla sur. Esa es otra cuestión de las universidades en Nueva Zelanda. Cada universidad tiene diferentes fuertes y el gobierno neozelandés prefiere manejarlo de esta manera para que la inversión del gobierno se vaya a una sola universidad en especializarse, digamos, Massey es la única que tiene medicina veterinaria. Toda la inversión para el equipo, para veterinarios, se va a Massey University. Otago ofrece medicina humana, entonces realmente lo que es inversión al equipo de medicina, que se vaya a Otago o a la Universidad de Auckland. Entonces, esa es la lógica del gobierno de Nueva Zelanda con las universidades. Humanidades y ciencias sociales, nuevamente todo lo que es aplicado, todo lo que hace que un país pueda crecer y desarrollarse. Menciono sociología especialmente por la combinación de culturas que tiene Nueva Zelanda. ¿Cómo podemos hacer que todas estas personas que vienen de fuera a integrarse en Nueva Zelanda consideren en Nueva Zelanda su propio país? ¿Por qué me voy a yo esforzar por Nueva Zelanda si soy mexicana? ¿Qué es lo que me hace querer ayudar, querer aportar querer traer lo que yo aprendí de México a Nueva Zelanda, enseñarles de, mira, en México tenemos esto que nos ha funcionado y el gobierno neozelandés lo puede adoptar. Ese es el tipo de cosas que se pueden usar y por el cual se aprecian las culturas internacionales aquí en Nueva Zelanda. Geografía, historia, psicología, educación especial, todo ese tipo de cosas muy fuertes dentro de la Universidad de Massey. Artes creativas, como les decía, es la escuela que está basada en Wellington. Lo que a ustedes se les ocurra relacionado con diseño, con cine, con televisión, y en diseño estoy hablando de diseño industrial, pero también diseño de modas, diseño textil, fotografía, realmente lo que se les ocurra a ustedes. Artes visuales maoríes, si ustedes están muy inmersos en lo que es la cultura autóctona de regiones de Colombia y lo quieren comparar con la cultura maorí, hemos tenido estudiantes colombianos y realmente los profesores se fascinan en las cosas que son similares, las cosas que son diferentes, qué son las cuestiones artísticas humanas alrededor del mundo. Victoria University es fuerte en música clásica. Nosotros nos enfocamos en lo que es música comercial. Entonces son áreas diferentes, las dos universidades muy fuertes en lo que saben hacer, digamos. Tenemos cursos de inglés, nada más, no me voy a ir de lleno a esto para no tomar mucho tiempo de la presentación, pero básicamente dentro de la Universidad de Massey tenemos el Massey University College, donde tenemos cursos de inglés y cursos para nivelación de inglés. Si ustedes ya tienen un cierto nivel de inglés y necesitan nada más un poco más para nivelarlo, es donde entra nuestro acuerdo con Colfuturo. Ese curso de nivelación de hasta 16 semanas es gratuito si ustedes tienen una beca con Colfuturo. Ofrecemos 3 becas por año para estudiantes de Colfuturo. Hasta ahora nunca hemos llenado la capacidad. Es prácticamente seguro que si ustedes obtienen beca de Colfuturo, van a tener el curso de inglés gratis si necesitan un cierto extra para nivelarse. Me brinqué uno. Los niveles de inglés, esto no lo cubrió Alex, pero básicamente para darles una idea, las diferentes opciones de exámenes de inglés que tenemos, lo más seguro es que Victoria hace estos mismos niveles de inglés, ya sea y las universidades de Nueva Zelanda en general. Entonces ya pueden ustedes hacer IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge, PTE. Está libre. EAP1 y EAP2 son los programas de Massey, para darles una idea del equivalente con el que salen. Costos de colegiatura, por si tienen duda, lo convertí a dólares americanos para que sea una conversión que ustedes entiendan un poco más. El dólar neozelandés es más económico que el dólar americano, entonces aquí se los traduje un poquito. Costo de vida, tomen en cuenta, el costo de vida en Nueva Zelanda es realmente como vivir en Europa. Tienen que considerarlo, es muy importante que estén cubiertos para que se puedan enfocar a los estudios y no estén preocupados en necesito organizar algún tipo de trabajo para pagar la renta. La idea del permiso de trabajo es que les sirva para los gustos extra, para estar tranquilos, para, digamos, necesitar pagarle menos de regreso a Colfuturo al final de sus estudios. Es el extra. No les recomiendo que dependan del trabajo para poder estudiar. Entonces, esto les da una idea, como comentaba Alex, los costos de doctorado son mucho más económicos porque están subsidiados por el gobierno neozelandés y pagan lo mismo que pagaría un estudiante local. Becas, tenemos algunas becas limitadas. La más importante obviamente es la de Colfuturo y Colfuturo es a quien yo recomendaría más que nada si ustedes necesitan apoyo financiero para poder venir a Nueva Zelanda. Las becas en Nueva Zelanda son muy, muy limitadas. Tenemos pocas becas y más que nada son descuentos. Son descuentos sobre los estudios más que una beca que cubra toda su colegiatura. $30,000 neozelandeses serán unos $20,000 americanos para darles una idea. Realmente esta es mi presentación, no tengo mucho más que decirles. Lo que a mí me interesa ahora es que platiquen un poquito. Tengo a una estudiante becaria de Colfuturo, déjenme detener esto. Listo. Claudia Caicedo es una estudiante que fue becada por Colfuturo, vino ya hace bastante tiempo, ya tiene buena experiencia aquí en Nueva Zelanda y está estudiando acá con nosotros en la Universidad de Massey. Yo le pedí a Claudia que nos acompañara. Claudia, no sé si estás por ahí, si puedes habilitar tu micrófono. Se nos perdió Claudia. Alejandra, no sé si quieras mientras empezar con preguntas y respuestas y Claudia que nos alcance en el momento que pueda aparecer.
Listo, dale, claro que sí. ¿Alguien tiene alguna duda, pregunta que quiera escribir aquí en el chat? Yo tendría una pregunta. I have one question for Alex and Sandra, and it's about the time of preparation. Which recommendation or what is your advice for people that are in the process of applying in terms of time of preparation, specific requirements?
I can start responding if you want, Alex. Okay, so basically a recommendation is start as early as you can. All right, so the earlier you start, the better. For us, New Zealand universities, if you have partial documents are about 1 semester before you graduate, you can actually already apply for admission with us because we can start assessing your documents and start telling you, hey, this is the extra documents that you need, or it really looks good. Once you graduate, we can even make a conditional offer for you. So that can work. So the earlier you send us the documents, you need to translate your documents into English. So that's very important. That takes time. With Massey University, you just need to scan and upload everything in the system for our admissions people to start assessing. So we can start a communication as soon as you're ready. Leaving it to the last minute only causes more stress to you because then you need to apply for your student visa. You need to make sure that you get your scholarship with Col Futuro. You need to organize your travel. You need to make sure that accommodation is booked. So the earlier you do it, the more relaxed you will do. Alex?
Yeah, the visa point is the one I'd like to really accentuate, particularly if you're bringing family with you. Once the border opens back to New Zealand, immigration will likely look a lot different than it did before. And so in order to sort of mitigate any potential risks of getting your visa in a timely manner, it's really good just to do everything early, honestly. These New Zealand universities, I believe Massey would be the same way, but we have what's called rolling admissions processes. So you can apply for whatever program you want as early as you want, really. And your acceptance doesn't like go away or anything. Let's say you applied for a program here, you got accepted, but then you couldn't come in because the border was closed. You could defer your offer of place, which means that your acceptance just gets moved, so you don't have to apply again. So in that sense, yeah, there's not really any risk of doing it early, honestly, and it'll just make everything easier in the long run.
Okay, thank you.
I'm seeing a question here just to finish on this one about English. It applies the same. You can send us your application without your English test so that we look first at your academic background. And if that's all good, we can send you a conditional offer saying, you know what, you're okay academically. As soon as you have your English result and you meet the requirements, you will be fully admitted. It's a guarantee. So that's fantastic. And as we said, with the Massey offer of free English, basically send us your application, get the scholarship with Col Futuro, and then you come back to us saying, hey, I got the scholarship, I can pay for it, I got the academic side, can you help me with the English? And then we make that special program for you to do English and then start your master or PhD.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. It is necessary to have work experience to apply for a master?
I suppose it would depend on the program. Some programs, at least for us, obviously, Sandra can add more. Some programs which tend to be maybe more business focused or quite industry focused might require a little bit of work experience. I know that our programs which maybe are a bit more academic certainly wouldn't. So yeah, it depends on the program. There's not really a blanket rule, I would say.
Okay, thank you. We have another questions. Do you have the Master of Environmental Engineer in Massey or Victoria?
We do not, unfortunately. And if I'm allowed to just answer a quick question I've seen pop up from Jayomara Nunez in the chat, the partial acceptance is the same thing here. Whereas if you apply with sufficient academics, but maybe no English yet, you would be the same process as what Sandra just described.
Alejandra, sorry to interrupt. Claudia is trying to get a voice to be able to talk about her experience. She seems to be muted and cannot unmute herself.
But
creo que ya estoy lista. Ahora sí tengo.
She's in.
¿Me escuchan? Quería agradecer a Colfuturo. Alex, muchas gracias por la presentación. Es muy clara. Sandra, muchas gracias. Y venir a New Zealand es una experiencia maravillosa. El aprendizaje que uno hace, no solo a nivel académico, sino como persona, es una gran oportunidad. Aquí, como decía, resaltaba Alex y lo decía Sandra, es muy fácil encontrarse con diferentes culturas y poderse integrar. El estudiar aquí requiere mucho esfuerzo, requiere dedicación y requiere calidad. Si están listos para eso, vengan, desen la oportunidad, busquen bien el programa que quieren aprender porque aquí realmente lo enseñan bien. Vale la pena la universidad que escojan, vale la pena venir. Muchas gracias por invitarme. Ustedes tienen la ventaja, como la tengo yo, de tener el soporte de Colfuturo, o sea, no tienen de qué preocuparse porque Colfuturo siempre resuelve las dudas a tiempo y la universidad aquí tiene la ventaja de que por estar reglamentada por el gobierno, por estar cubierta por ellos, siempre está pendiente del estudiante internacional. Todo el tiempo están pendiente de uno. Aquí no estamos abandonados, ni por Colfuturo, ni por las universidades. Gracias, Sandra. Gracias, Alex. Bye.
Claudia, muchísimas gracias. ¿Podemos aprovechar para los estudiantes quieran preguntarte alguna cosa sobre tu experiencia?
¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta para Claudia específicamente? Okay.
Claudia, muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Con gusto, gracias.
The sport management program is offered in one campus or is offered in several cities?
Let me just check our program and fees. Because that's one very special thing with Massey University, because we have 3 campuses. Some campuses are stronger in one area than others, but some are offered in different areas. Let me just double check. Sorry for the delay. Actually, we don't have a master in sport management. We have a bachelor in sport management. So, but still answering to that question, that one is offered in Auckland.
Okay. We have another questions. Do you have a master in cybersecurity?
That's a challenging one. We have Alex, if you want to jump in, you can also jump in.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So we do have a postgraduate qualification in cybersecurity, but it's actually a major within the general science curriculum. So what you'd actually apply for would be a Master of Science, but you'd major in cybersecurity. So if you were looking for it at Victoria University of Wellington, that would be the place that you would look. So yeah, it's a major within the sort of general science umbrella.
Okay. We have another question. The Master of Arts are linked with galleries or broadcast systems?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Our Master of Arts is within humanities. So it's anything to do with humanities and social sciences. And our Master of Creative Arts is the one that is related to fine arts or design.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing here. I think you'd find that all
Yes.
within New Zealand, that the Master of Arts is more of a sort of theoretical academic qualification. And that sort of hands-on program might be called something different.
For the one that asked about cybersecurity, at Massey we do have a Master of International Security, specifically into either defense or intelligence. Those are the two specializations. So it's not cybersecurity, but it's intelligence or it's defense within international security. This program is only offered online. We don't have it on campus, because that's one of the special things with New Zealand and Massey University. In order to get a student visa, I think Alex mentioned it, in order to be eligible to a student visa in New Zealand, you need to be studying full-time on campus. Because Massey is so strong in distance education, we need to make sure that any program that we offer to you guys can be offered fully on campus. That's why we have the specific listing of you can study any of these programs. Or if you choose to study something online, that we need to make sure that you can do the full degree without coming to New Zealand. So Master of International Security can be offered fully from Colombia. You don't need to come to New Zealand.
Okay. Can I work while I'm studying?
If you study on campus full-time, yes, you can study at least half-time, as Alex explained, 20 hours per week, and full-time during holidays. If you study PhD, your visa allows you to work full-time, but your professors will not want you to work full-time. They want you to study. So, but you have the liberty to do it.
It is easy to apply if you have family, husband, and children.
Yes, if you are married, you have a partner and children, you can apply for a family visa. The only thing that is important is if the kids are older than 18 years old, then they will not be included in the family.
Yeah. It is possible to apply to a master's degree with a different focus of what I originally studied. For example, I studied engineer and I went to apply for a master's degree in business.
It depends what program, and I'm sure Victoria will be the same.
Yep.
Most of our business programs are open to any background. Most of our specific programs, like if you want to study agriculture, they will ask you to have done a bachelor in agriculture. Or if you want to do politics, you will need to have done a bachelor in politics, which is very strong at Victoria University.
Yeah, just to jump in, we do have a qualification that's called a Master of Global Business, where you just need a bachelor's degree sort of in any area. And it's meant to be sort of a, not introductory, but a business course for people who want to kind of shift gears. So we do have a program to suit needs like that.
Okay. Xiomara, as I just finished my master, can I apply to the doctoral program right now, even if I don't have my diploma?
For us, yes, it would be similar to the conditional acceptance that Sandra mentioned, where if the rest of, let's say your grades are sufficient and your research is sufficient, you can still get what's called a conditional offer of place. And that condition would be that you provide us your diploma.
Okay.
One comment on PhD studies, that's the tricky part with, I think, all New Zealand universities. The PhD, as Alex explained, is research-based only. This means you will design your project, your plan of research, and you will have an academic, a professor, who will support you and guide you through your research until you finish your PhD thesis. This situation makes it that in order to be able to accept you into PhD, we need to make sure that we have a professor, an academic, who is available, who knows about the subjects, and who has time to look after your research. We could have really good professors in your area, but they are already looking after 5 PhD students, and they don't have time to add another one. They might say, yeah, okay, but in 3 years, once these other guys finish what they have started. So that's the main challenge with PhDs. With Massey, in theory, you can just send your application saying, I want to do a research in this area, find me a supervisor. And we would send it to the college and say, is there anybody interested? But if you know the academics, usually they will not be waiting for somebody to who can I do? It's actually the other way around. If they find a student who comes in and says, hey, professor, I read about your background. What you did in your research is very similar to what I have done in my master thesis in Colombia, and I'm thinking of doing a PhD in this area. Would you be interested? That might attract the interest of the professor. On your application, you can, we have a question that says, have you been in touch with anybody at Massey? If you write the name of that professor, once the application comes in, it will go straight to that professor and tell him, hey, are you going to work with the student? Is this something you can do? And they can give us advice, and the process is much faster. Also, professors sometimes will get back to you and say, no, not me, but you know what? I know a colleague. And sometimes it can be at a different university. It can happen that somebody writes to Massey and the professor says, you know what? Go to Victoria. They are the top people in that one. And that also gives you support to apply to Colfuturo and say, this guy is the best one in the world. And I found him because I did research about New Zealand. So that's how you go with it. PhD process is very long, and you need to find the right match for you, but it's really worthwhile. It only works if you really want to do research in that area and that you don't give up until you find the right match.
Thank you. How much time can we spend in the whole application process?
I'm not quite sure what, I guess I would answer that by saying how long it takes for us to turn around an application once you've submitted it. So for us, for a master's program, you would hear back about your acceptance in 4 weeks at minimum, or not minimum, sorry, 4 weeks maximum. It could be earlier than that. PhDs, after you apply, it's usually about 6 weeks that you would hear back. Master's, okay, so yeah, so 4 weeks. So let's say you applied today, you would hear back at the latest by November 13th.
At Massey, our admissions expectation is to turn around a master application in 2 weeks or less, but PhD is completely unknown because it depends how fast the academics get back to us. In theory, they are pushed into, you need to reply to us in 2 weeks, the academics, not the student. But because they are so immersed in their research, it happens that it takes much longer for them to respond, and we need to push back and forth. So that's why I recommended, if you already have a connection, the process is much more faster because we know what you're asking for and how we can get the right match.
Okay, perfect. And we don't have more questions. So thank you so much, Sandra and Alex, for being here. And thank you for doing the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. It was nice to see people even virtually. So I hope you all learned something today and stay in touch with us.
Okay.
I'll type in, and maybe Alex, you want to do the same, my email address, so that if you have any questions about either Massey or Victoria, just email us. Would love to hear from you. And as I said, the way New Zealand universities work, if at Massey University we don't have a program, we're likely to recommend some other universities if we know the others do offer it. So if you apply to me saying, I want to do a master in classical music, I'll tell you, talk to Alex, because he's the best in classical music in New Zealand. Well, Victoria University, I mean.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Bye, Alex.
Thank you.